The first time I was intimate with Anna Miller, I smelled smoke on her chest. It was on both sides, left and right. I don't smoke. I never have. I couldn't believe it. I nearly pressed my nose against her skin to make sure I wasn't imagining it. But the scent, there was no mistaking it. My mind suddenly went blank, as if it had exploded. Anna Miller wasn't pleased with my hesitation. Are you going to keep doing this, or not? You're so annoying. You come back after a few days away, acting like a hungry dog, and don't even let me take a shower first. When she saw I was still frozen, she flipped off the bed, grumbling as she went into the bathroom. I remained there, still in shock, unable to snap out of it. That night, Anna Miller slept soundly beside me, while I lay awake, my mind racing, unable to find rest. The next day, I drove Anna Miller to school. She was pursuing her PhD at a local university and was set to graduate this year. I drove in silence, my face expressionless, while Anna immediately got on her phone and started chatting, not saying a word to me. Before, she would always share stories about her school life, and we could talk endlessly. But now, if I didn't bring up a topic, she barely spoke to me about anything. When did this change happen? And most importantly, who was that man who smelled of smoke? A surge of anger flooded my chest, and I unconsciously gripped the steering wheel tighter. I knew almost all the men in Anna's circle. I spent all night thinking about it, but none of them seemed to fit the bill. As we neared the school, Anna's phone played a voice message. It was the voice of a middle-aged man. Anna, are you still not at the lab? I was thinking. The message cut off abruptly. I glanced at Anna. She responded nonchalantly, I have to give a talk to the juniors about how to use the lab equipment. The professor's been pushing me. You can drop me here, I'll walk the rest of the way. I had a nagging feeling something was off, but I couldn't quite place it. My heart was pounding in my chest. I never suspected Anna's mentor, Henry, until now. I'd only seen a photo of him. He was in his 50s, with a distinguished, scholarly look. I had heard about his impressive research career and academic reputation. If it was him, I didn't want to imagine how many chances they might have had to meet every day on campus. But Henry's daughter was almost the same age as Anna. In that moment, I almost couldn't hold myself back from getting out of the car and confronting Anna. I wanted to demand answers. Was she betraying me? Was she having an improper relationship with her professor? But reason told me I couldn't do that just yet. I needed to stay calm, to gather proof before making any accusations. That evening, when Anna came home, I pretended I was going to hug her, but she subtly dodged me. George. I'm so tired. I just want to take a shower and go to bed. With that, she tossed her phone carelessly onto the couch and went into the bedroom. Anna always left her phone around the house, never caring if I looked at it. If she had a secret, she wouldn't act this casually. After waiting until she was deeply asleep, I crept out of bed and quietly went to her bag in the living room. Sure enough, my suspicions were correct. She had another phone. I suppressed my racing heart and, after 2 attempts, managed to unlock it. When I saw the messages inside, I felt the blood drain from my face. And my body went cold as if I had fallen into an ice cave. Who makes you feel better, me or your wife? I haven't touched her in ages. Her body's like a barrel, no man would be interested in her. You, on the other hand, you're young and beautiful. Being with you makes me feel young again. You're not old at all, and your stamina is impressive. Every time, you make me beg for mercy before you'll stop. Your upper mouth is as powerful as your lower mouth. Which one do you like better, teacher? I like both. Can't get enough of either. Next time, I'll fill your top mouth too. So you won't scream so loud and make me worry someone will hear. I don't care. I'll be in your office next Friday, okay? I bought a new set of lingerie, just don't drain your advisor dry, or we'll see who gets you through graduation. Thousands of messages, each one like a slap in my face. I never would have guessed that the serene, graceful Anna I knew, who appeared like a goddess in front of others, was actually behind my back, shamelessly flirting with a man old enough to be her father. No wonder she had suddenly skyrocketed this past year. Pumping out paper after paper. She had been worried about graduating, but now it seemed like she could finish ahead of schedule without breaking a sweat. Turns out, her long hours weren't spent on research. I don't understand. For all these years, I've given everything to Anna. When she wanted to pursue a PhD, her parents didn't support her, unwilling to pay for her studies. I was the one who fully backed her, studying with her, helping her through exams and interviews, and even paying for her tuition and living expenses without a word of complaint. Yet, this is how she talked about me with Henry. He's nice enough, maybe we've just been together too long, and it feels like the passion's gone. He's always disappointing me. He can afford to pay for my PhD tuition, but he can't help me graduate. He's willing to support me, but when my brother asks him for money, he refuses. I was trembling with rage when I read this. No passion? So, you cheat instead? Your brother's a gambling addict, what kind of fool would lend him money for that? And Henry, the way he spoke about me, his tone was dripping with sarcasm and disdain. At his age, what can he offer you? A house with a 30-year mortgage? A beat-up car? A marriage that could crumble over everyday problems like bills and kids? You're a beautiful rose, you deserve to be pampered, not stuck with someone so ordinary. I may not be able to give you marriage, but I can offer you a career to make others envious, a dazzling life. I spent over 4 hours reading through every single message. What started as shock and anger slowly turned into heartbreak and disappointment, until I felt completely numb. All my years of sincerity toward her? Worthless. Like feeding a dog. The next day, it was Friday. Anna was getting ready, carefully putting herself together as she said, "I've got a meeting tonight, so I'll be home late." I nodded with a blank expression. She'd always told me the same thing, Friday nights were meeting nights, and she would come back around 11. Who would have thought it wasn't a meeting at all, but a secret rendezvous? Just the thought of Anna finishing up with Henry, then coming home to be with me, it made me feel disgusted. Oh. One more thing. My parents are coming this weekend. I think they'll bring up the topic of us getting married again. George, sometimes my parents can be rude and demanding, but they're my parents. For my sake, can you just agree with them? I could barely hold back from cursing her out. She had been spending my money, living in my house, and cheating on me for who knows how long. And now, she had the nerve to ask me to meet her parents' absurd demands? What did she think I was? I forced out a thin smile. Okay, I'll pick them up tomorrow. As for their requests, I'll have a proper discussion with them. Anna smiled sweetly and hummed as she walked out the door. The moment she left, my face immediately darkened. I found Henry through the school's faculty page. He certainly had a lot of accolades, he was still the director of a prominent lab, held various positions in academic societies, and Anna had often mentioned how he frequently flew abroad for conferences. A true academic powerhouse. I hired someone to dig into his personal life. His parents were still alive, his wife Amy was in business, and they had a daughter, Sarah, who was studying abroad. He seemed to be a successful man with a perfect family. Good. I will never give up until he is ruined. At around 10 p.m. that night, I showed up beneath Anna's research building. I asked a student and found out that Henry's office was in room 602. Looking at the lit window of 602, I sent a message to Henry's wife, Amy, from a new phone number I'd just gotten. "Do you really think you deserve Henry, old woman?" The phone rang almost immediately. I ignored it and sent another message. "Your husband says he's working late. But what he really means is that he can't stand his old wife at home. Henry's too kind to say it, but I feel sorry for him. Consider this a warning, leave while you still have time and make room for someone else." Amy, of course, responded with a flurry of texts. "Who the hell are you? What is your relationship with my husband?" I ignored her. I couldn't believe she'd remain indifferent after seeing those 2 messages. Sure enough, not long after, Henry came rushing out. His expression was anxious, and he was hastily speaking on the phone while walking fast. Anna was trailing behind him, trying to grab his arm. Henry recoiled as if shocked, then turned to silence her with a gesture. Without another word, he jumped in his car and sped off, leaving Anna standing there, staring after him with a look of betrayal. As soon as I got home, Anna walked in right behind me. I acted like nothing had happened. "Anna, your meeting ended early today?" She gave a quiet reply, and I could tell her mood was off. How laughable. Anna had always been so confident about her looks. From her conversation with Henry, she seemed to think she was on a whole different level compared to his wife. Like she had some kind of undeniable edge in their relationship. Yet, when Amy called, Henry dropped everything and went home. Men like Henry, no matter how much they've lost interest in their wives, still care about maintaining a solid family image. They care about the perfect outward appearance of their life. Especially since Henry and Amy had a child together. But from the moment I found out about his affair with Anna, he was as good as dead to me. The next day, I met Anna's parents, the Millers. They lived just an hour outside the city. And every time we saw each other these past 6 months, the conversation always revolved around marriage, houses, and cars. This time was no different. Mrs. Miller immediately started talking loudly. Yesterday, our neighbor's daughter got married. The wedding, the show, it was so impressive. I don't understand, how could their daughter be more qualified than Anna? Her education, her looks, her personality, Anna has it all. Mr. Miller shook his head. No way, it's night and day. I quietly sipped my coffee. Mrs. Miller noticed my silence and raised her voice. George, Anna's beautiful. Well-behaved, and she's about to finish her PhD. Raising such an excellent daughter, you can't imagine how much effort we've put in. For Anna to marry you, $300,000, a house with her name on it, it's not too much to ask. Anna, sitting next to me, didn't say a word, clearly agreeing with her parents' words. They didn't mention who had actually paid for Anna's PhD, me, of course. The thought made me even more disappointed in Anna. I smiled. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I actually talked things over with my parents recently. $300. 000 isn't going to work. The smiles faded from their faces. Anna's face dropped as well. As Mrs. Miller was about to start a long-winded argument, I quickly added, what I meant was, my family has decided to offer $500,000. How much? You said how much? Mrs. Miller's voice erupted in shock. She jumped up suddenly, her arm brushing the table, causing dishes to clatter dangerously. Anna and Mr. Miller both stared at me, their faces filled with disbelief. I spoke slowly and clearly, 500,000. Mrs. Miller froze. Her hands trembling as she struggled to process the words. Mr. Miller opened and closed his mouth a few times, seemingly trying to say something, but unsure of what exactly. I kept my face sincere, but inside, I was smirking. The reason they were so eager for me to marry Anna wasn't because she was nearing 30. It was because their useless son, Luca, was about to get remarried. The second wife had high demands, so now they were looking to squeeze money out of me. I pushed further. This house, adding Anna's name to it doesn't really change much. Before we marry, I'll buy her a new house. This way, she'll have security, and when we have kids, they'll have a place to stay for school. Anna's eyes shifted from shock to joy, her voice turning syrupy with affection. George, I plan to buy a new car when we get married. This one I drive, while not terrible, is just a basic car. I've only had it for a little over a year. If Luca needs it, he can take it any time. Before I could finish, Mr. Miller grabbed a bottle of wine, sat next to me, and threw an arm around my shoulders. George, from the moment you met Anna, I knew you were a reliable kid. I'll sleep easy knowing she's with you. You're too kind, sir. I looked at Anna. Anna has been good to me, so I'll be good to her, too. Anna gazed at me lovingly. Mrs. Miller eagerly moved all the meat and dishes in front of me. Enough talk, eat some food. The family basked in a wave of happiness, oblivious to the smirk in my eyes. Laugh now, while it's all smiles. When the dream shatters, the crash will be all the more brutal. That night, Anna was unusually proactive in bed. At the end, she trembled and whispered, George. You're so good to me. I love you so much. But some people are just shameless. The more good you do for them, the more they take it for granted, trampling on your genuine feelings without a second thought. The next day, she secretly messaged Henry from another phone. The other night, I wasn't happy. I need compensation. Although I didn't know how Henry had explained things to Amy that night, my move had some effect. Henry messaged Anna saying he needed to be careful at the school lately, as his old woman was checking up on him every day. Anna responded by whining, complaining, and even sending a few seductive pictures of herself in black stockings, finally coaxing the Henry into agreeing to help her apply for a science grant. If she got that grant, it would be a huge help for Anna to stay at the university after graduation. TCH. It really was a gratifying, full-fledged sexual transaction. For the next 2 weeks, Anna came home early every day, cooked and cleaned with me, and our relationship seemed to be improving. But, of course, that was just the appearance of it. A few days later, Anna suddenly said she had to go on a business trip to attend an academic conference. I tested the waters, should I take leave and go with you? She replied, you're so busy. I'll go alone. The next day, Anna refused my offer to drive her and took a taxi with her suitcase. I secretly hailed a taxi and followed her. Sure enough, her destination wasn't the airport, but a star-rated hotel. I waited patiently outside. Around 7 p.m., Henry showed up. As soon as he entered the lobby, he headed straight for the elevator. I adjusted my hat and mask and followed him up. Based on Anna and Henry's chat history, I was sure he didn't know me. The elevator only had the two of us. Henry pressed the button for the 8th floor. I pressed for the 7th. When the elevator reached the 7th floor, I quickly rushed through the emergency exit to the 8th. Henry had just stepped out of the elevator. I hid and watched as he knocked on one of the rooms. I took out my phone and made a call. Big Vision Hotel, 8006. Just do as I say. 20 minutes later. Two guys in suits arrived, Nate and Pete. They walked straight to the door of 8006, with Pete gently knocking, while Nate held a video camera. Good evening, room service. We're giving away a big gift to all guests staying with us today. The door to 8006 opened. Without hesitation, the two of them pushed their way in and closed the door behind them. Henry looked suspicious. Aren't you here to deliver something? Hey! What are you recording? Put your phone down. Before he could finish his sentence, Pete slapped him across the face. Go to hell. Henry's meticulously styled hair was a mess. And his face darkened with anger. Who are you? Why are you hitting me? Pete slapped him again. Henry's glasses flew off his face and landed on the floor. At this point, he seemed to realize things were going south. Panic flashed across his face, but he tried to stay calm. Let's talk. If you keep hitting me, I'll call the police. The slaps kept coming, forcing Henry to retreat step by step. Pete delivered a brutal kick to his groin. Henry's face drained of color as he curled up on the floor, mouth agape. But no sound came out. It was clear he was in excruciating pain. Pete and the cameraman didn't hold back. For over 10 minutes, they took turns beating him, landing punch after punch. By the end, Henry was almost in tears. What do you want from me? If it's money, I can give it to you. Pete crouched down to meet his gaze, patting his face before spitting on it. You old bastard, don't you even know the filthy things you've done? And you still have the nerve to ask me that? He leaned in closer, eyes narrowing. I've got a question for you. The woman you slept with tonight. Did you know she has a boyfriend? Henry's pupils constricted. He blurted out, Are you her boyfriend? Pete sneered but didn't answer directly. Now tell me, should I be hitting you? Henry didn't dare to speak. His eyes darted around, and after a long pause, he finally squeezed out a response. As long as you don't make a scene, I'll agree to anything you want. What can you give me? I'll give you money. I can transfer it to you right now. Pete slammed Henry's head a few times like he was shooting a basketball. Go fuck yourself, you think I'm stupid? You transfer the money. Then turn around and call the cops on me, saying I'm extorting you. What do you think will happen then? Henry pleaded for mercy. No. I won't do that. If you don't trust me, I have $5,000 in cash in my bag. You can take it right now. Henry, a big shot in academia, usually walked around in front of teachers and students like a king. But here, now, he was on his knees, groveling before a 20-something-year-old kid. How ridiculous it was. I want you to look into the camera and say that you're scum, lower than a dog, that you should not be hitting on other people's girlfriends. That you're a piece of shit. Pete raised his hand, and Henry hurriedly obeyed. I'm scum, I'm lower than a dog, I shouldn't seduce my students, I'm a piece of shit. Pete nodded in satisfaction. Just then, a woman's scream came from behind them. The camera whipped around to reveal Anna's panicked face. She was standing at the bathroom door, wrapped only in a bath towel, her long legs exposed. Who are you? Who the hell are you? Henry instantly realized something was wrong. Anna, he's not. Just then, Pete said, Huh? Isn't this room 8016? Nate reminded him. It says room 8006 on the door. Pete immediately apologized. Oh. Oh my God, sorry, we got the wrong room. Anna was livid. Are you idiots? You couldn't even see that. You get the room wrong, but you still hit someone. We're calling the cops. Pete grinned. Sure, go ahead and report us. Henry snapped, Anna, don't say anything. Just get them out of here. Henry's attitude was the complete opposite of Anna's. He just wanted to calm things down. Pete turned and gave Henry a thumbs up. Is she your wife? Anna cursed, what the hell is it to you? Get out of here now. As Pete walked past Anna, he suddenly added, you're such a filthy bitch trying to act all high and mighty. If you two weren't having an affair, why would he feel so guilty? Anna's face instantly turned pale. The video stopped right there. Pete said to me, don't worry. That kick I gave him, even if it doesn't ruin him, it'll make sure he can't get hard for at least a month. He then handed me the $5,000 he took from Henry's bag. I was pleased with the results. I had arranged for these two beforehand, telling them to not kill him but to make sure they got the whole thing on video. Even if Henry was innocently beaten up, he definitely wouldn't dare to blow the whistle. He had to take this silent loss. The next day, Anna came back. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she clearly hadn't rested well. She spent the entire day running errands for Henry, taking care of him at the hospital. Of course, she was exhausted. She collapsed on the sofa, ordering me to pour her a glass of water and give her a nice massage. Business trips are really tiring. I barely even ate, George. Can you order me some takeout? I wasn't about to fall for that. After a week of pretending to be affectionate, it was time for a new script. I found a random excuse to start a fight with her. Anna was shaking with rage. George, are you crazy? I had a couple of words with a delivery guy last week and you're bringing that up to argue with me? You still dare to call me cheap? I raised my voice even louder. Look at how you smile at other men like you're worthless. You're nothing but a bitch. I had never spoken so harshly. Not even during our past arguments. Anna was completely stunned. Her eyes reddened, and with no care for her image, she shouted, rushing toward me to scratch me. Who are you calling a bitch? I sighed in irritation. Anna, we're about to get married. You eat, drink, and use my money. You should be keeping your distance from other men. Can you at least have some self-awareness? The mention of money drove Anna wild. Fine, now you've finally said what's on your mind, huh? You think I'm just spending your money? Her face flushed. And she immediately transferred $40,000 to my account. 1 year's tuition is $10,000, $40,000, no more debt to you. She then grabbed her suitcase, which hadn't even been opened yet, slammed the door, and left. Well. She sure knows how to dodge the key points. Not a word about the 4 years of living expenses. But at least I've recovered a bit of my losses. That evening, Mrs. Miller called me, cautiously asking if we had fought. Why Anna had suddenly returned home and said she didn't want to get married anymore. I stayed silent on the phone. Things were different now. Since the talk about marriage, the Millers had done a complete 180 in their attitude toward me. Maybe sensing that I was angry, Mrs. Miller quickly added, Anna can be a bit headstrong sometimes, but her heart isn't bad. A lot of boys have liked her growing up, but she's never paid attention to anyone except you. In this regard, she's definitely the perfect wife and mother. I know my daughter. What a load of nonsense. What kind of virtuous wife and mother sends lewd texts and naked photos to other men in the middle of the night? What kind of virtuous wife and mother lets another man come home smelling like smoke after a night out? I took a deep breath. Mrs. Miller, to be honest, I was a bit impulsive today and said some things I shouldn't have. Good boy, just listen to me. Don't argue anymore, and once you both calm down, everything will be fine. In the past, whenever we had a disagreement, no matter who was right or wrong, would always apologize first. Then buy her a gift or take her out to eat as an apology. But this time, I refused to back down. Proud Anna had no way out, and she didn't come back. I was happy for the peace and quiet. Instead, the Millers were frantic, calling me almost every day, wanting us to make up quickly. I wondered how Henry was doing after the brutal beating. It was time to give him another surprise. I went on Amazon and bought 2 sets of cheap men's underwear, sending them to Henry's house with the recipient listed as his wife, Amy. Sorry, Amy. But it's all for the grand finale. The delivery was signed for on the same day. I woke up early. Anna had mentioned before that they would be hosting a group of international scholars at her school for an exchange visit. Before leaving, I texted Henry's wife, Amy. Did you get the underwear? Hurry up and wash it, make sure Henry wears it tomorrow for me to see. Henry says the only thing you gave him is a worthless daughter. Not having a son is his biggest regret in life. I'm going to give him a son. You bitch, who the hell are you? If you want to know who I am, come to the school and see for yourself. I disguised myself and snuck into the research building, just as a group of foreign scholars walked through, accompanied by the dean and several professors. Many teachers and students were trailing behind, and I blended in at the back unnoticed. This is the key laboratory led by Professor Henry. Under his guidance, his students have tackled numerous important research topics this year. Please, come in. Standing next to the equipment, Anna wore a dark blue dress. And the foreign scholars marveled in admiration. The two girls beside me were also excited. It's Anna. She looks amazing today. No wonder she's the beauty of our department. She's not just a beauty, she's published paper after paper in core journals. Her research strength is impressive. I've always heard that Professor Henry is particularly strict, and Anna's the only one he's ever praised. She's a real winner in life, I envy her. Anna introduced her project with poise, and the scholars nodded frequently in approval. Henry stood beside her, his face full of pride. I wonder if you'll still be smiling in a minute. A circle of students had gathered at the lab entrance, watching the scene. I shoved my way to the front and shouted, "Who is it? Can't you stop crowding?" The crowd stirred slightly, and a stack of A4 papers suddenly scattered across the ground, fluttering down in a shower, at least 40 or 50 sheets. Whose papers fell? Everyone paused and looked down at the floor. This isn't a papers, looks like, chat logs. The people closest to the papers crouched down to pick them up. As soon as they saw the contents, they all froze in shock. The department head looked displeased. What's going on? Whose is this? Pick them up quickly. This is embarrassing. A teacher awkwardly handed the papers to him. Head, this, I hid in the crowd, barely able to contain my laughter. Finally, the day had come. I had printed out the most explosive and shocking parts of the chat logs between Anna and Henry. I want to pin you against the laboratory window and enter you from behind. Stop it, I'm giving a lab class to students right now. Last night in my office, you were so passionate. Baby. Did you steal something from me? You stole my heart. Everyone says Henry never smiles, but who knew he had so many sweet nothings behind closed doors? My wife keeps asking if I want to go home and eat, but I only want to eat you. As long as you help me publish a few more papers, anywhere you want. There were many more such dirty talks. To make the scandal even more juicy and relatable to the teachers and students, I had even selected some content that was related to the school. One professor had been divorced for years. The department head had been trying for a child but gave up and chose to be childless. Each and every piece was gossip Henry had spilled to Anna. The department head held the papers, his face growing darker and darker. The two of them also saw the chat records. Anna's face instantly went pale, and she nearly collapsed. Henry stood frozen in place. Experience prevails. Just a few seconds later, Henry had already regained his composure, even managing to act a bit angry. This is a forgery. Someone is deliberately trying to slander me and my student. The crowd murmured in disbelief. The chat logs spanned several months, who would have the patience to fabricate something so intricate? But there were also many who believed Henry and Anna, thinking someone was trying to frame them. Anna, seeing the opportunity, began to tearfully sob. She was already beautiful, and when she cried, her face was like a delicate flower in the rain, making everyone around her try to console her. Anna, don't cry, who would believe such nonsense? Damn it, let me know who did this to slander Anna, I'll beat the hell out of them. The scholars were completely confused, asking what had actually happened, while the department head was on the verge of dying from embarrassment. All right, everyone stop looking. Someone clean this up, Henry, you. He didn't finish his sentence when a slightly overweight middle-aged woman suddenly burst into the room from the door. She locked eyes with Anna, grabbed her by the hair, and swung her arm, slapping her across the face. You bitch, so it's you. Trying to seduce your own professor, do you have no shame? The woman slapped Anna with every curse. Each hit more forceful than the last. Anna wasn't prepared and took 6 or 7 hard slaps, her fair face swelling instantly. Ah! Anna screamed in pain. The people around them finally reacted, rushing to pull the woman away. Once she was separated, the overweight woman turned to Henry, who was still in a daze. Henry, if you don't want to be with me anymore, just get a divorce. You're raising this slut of a mistress, letting her flaunt herself in front of me every day, thinking I'm easy to bully, huh? So what if I had a daughter? You don't deserve to be a father. You make me sick. Amy's appearance was like pouring gasoline on a fire, immediately turning what could have been a temporary pause into an explosive climax. The two girls who had just been admiring Anna's beauty were now completely stunned. This is insane, this world is crazy. What do we do? My hands are shaking. Could those chat logs really be true? Oh my God. Meanwhile, Anna and Henry. Anna was sobbing, gasping for air, nearly on the verge of collapse. The girls who had been comforting her earlier silently distanced themselves from her. Henry, pale as a ghost, tried to keep up his composure. You've been tricked. Stop making up nonsense. It felt so good. Is there anything more satisfying than watching a hypocritical, self-righteous person have their mask ripped off in public? Seeing that my goal had been achieved, I retreated in time. After all, there was another big show I needed to prepare for. But this time, I would be the one starring in it. At 8:30 p.m., Anna's house was packed with people. The Miller couple, Luca's girlfriend, relatives, neighbors, classmates. And all the friends I could get were there. Mrs. Miller was proudly showing off. My son-in-law is so generous, he promised to buy Anna a house. The Miller couple basked in the praises and envious glances of everyone, growing more and more smug. I smiled. Anna is such a wonderful girl, marrying her is my greatest blessing. Just then, Anna's best friend shouted, Anna's back. The door opened, and I knelt on one knee, holding a diamond ring. Anna, I was wrong. I've thought about this seriously. You are the one I want to spend my life with. I should have been caring, understanding, and supportive. How could I make you angry and hurt you? I promise I won't make you upset again. Will you forgive me? And, will you marry me? Anna was caught off guard, first shocked by my sudden gesture. After hearing my words, she stood frozen, unable to speak for a long time. I was the closest, so I saw her eyes red and her cheeks still swollen. Say yes. Say yes. Everyone in the room started clapping and cheering. Anna suddenly covered her mouth and began crying. Anna's just too emotional. Anna, hurry up. With the increasing pressure from everyone's loud encouragement. Anna was on the verge of agreeing when my phone rang at the most inopportune moment. What? Oh, okay. I hung up the phone, puzzled. Strange, someone just called and said they knew I was going to propose to Anna today, and they sent me a gift to my email. They said I had to look at it immediately. Mrs. Miller frowned. Who would do that? Why send it now of all times? I looked at Anna. I'm not sure, but they said they were from Anna's school and knew her. Anna's whole body trembled. I cheerfully suggested, that must be a message from Anna's classmates. Maybe even a congratulatory video for us. Let's cast it to the TV and watch together. Everyone thought it sounded reasonable, and someone quickly turned on the TV. Anna was really panicking now. She tried to stop me. George, let's not watch it just yet, but how could I listen to her? I'd been preparing for this moment. Without hesitation, I cast the screen. Opened the email. Clicked on the video. And played it. In one smooth motion. Who are you? Who is this? Huh? Isn't this room 8016? Such a big mistake, how could you get it wrong? Anna, stop talking. Get them to leave now. Is she your wife? None of your business. Get out now. You bitch, you're still pretending to be innocent, if you weren't cheating, why is he so guilty? The video paused at the frame where Anna was only wearing a towel. The room fell eerily silent. Although the video was edited and only lasted for a few seconds, it was enough to leave everyone in shock. All eyes turned to Anna, who was shaking with fear. She was utterly humiliated, murmuring, No, that's not me, it's not me. I turned to face her, my expression emotionless. Suddenly, Anna lunged at me, gripping my hand tightly. Pleading, George, believe me, that wasn't me. I shook off her hand, my voice hoarse with anger. Don't think I don't recognize him, that man is your mentor, Henry. A gasp ran through the crowd. Anna's tears flowed harder. No wonder you always come home so late, no wonder you've been colder to me. It's all because you've been with Henry every day, in school no less. Anna, you're such a slut. I turned to leave, but Mrs. Miller suddenly grabbed me from behind. George, there must be some misunderstanding. The people in the room felt so awkward that they quickly made excuses to leave. Luca suddenly said, but don't they have that AI face-swapping tech? Someone probably just swapped Anna's face in. The Millers latched onto that like a lifeline. Yes, yes. That must be it. Anna is so talented, maybe someone's jealous of her. Anna would never do anything to hurt you. I sighed in frustration. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, please stop. I just need some time alone. With that, I ignored their attempts to stop me and forced my way out of their house. Not far from the door, I heard crashing and Anna's screams coming from inside. How did I give birth to such a shameless, disgusting thing? Just now, with so many people in the room, I bet by tonight, everyone will know what happened. That man is as old as your dad, and you. I had been patient for a month, and finally, the day had come. Thinking of Anna and Henry being publicly exposed, I felt a sense of satisfaction. When I got home, I carefully organized all their chat logs and the hotel video I'd obtained, then sent them to the principal's email. I sent it to every email I could find. In the body of the email, I anonymously reported that Henry had an improper relationship with his female PhD student, suggesting the school launch an immediate investigation into academic misconduct. This time, Henry wouldn't just get off easy. The next day, before I had even woken up, the Miller couple showed up at my house without any prior notice. Luckily, I'd had the foresight to change the door lock code the night before. They tried several times to open it but couldn't, so they just kept knocking. George, I know you're home, open the door. We brought you some gifts. About last night, I suddenly opened the door. Mrs. Miller's hand froze in midair, and Mr. Miller stood next to her, holding a pile of random things. Behind them was Anna, who seemed to have been hit again. Both sides of her face were swollen like a pig's head. George, I knew you were a soft-hearted kid. I'll tell you, if you're angry, you can hit or yell at her all you want, we won't stop you. You two have been together for so long, you have such deep feelings for each other. You can't just break up like that. I ignored her words and dragged 2 large suitcases to the door. These are all Anna's things she left at my place. Since you're here today, you can take them. The 3 of them froze. What do you mean by this? I slammed the door shut. I didn't care about the shouting and banging outside the door. Mrs. Miller begged for a long time, but when she saw I wasn't going to open the door, she finally couldn't hold back and started cursing her daughter in the hallway. What the hell, why did you cheat? You've pissed me off. You ungrateful little slut. We wasted all these years raising you for nothing. Anna exploded too. Enough. You've always treated me like a tool to make money, haven't you? What have you ever done for me? Luca lost so much money gambling, and you didn't say a word to him. Now you come here pretending to be loving parents, what's the point? Hey! You ungrateful bitch. I'll beat you to death. The family of 3 fought like mad dogs in the hallway until my neighbor came out and gave them a good scolding. But the Millers still wouldn't give up. They kept calling me every few days, saying Anna regretted everything. Was crying all the time, and even had suicidal thoughts. Finally, I blocked their calls and social media accounts. A few days after I anonymously reported Henry, Anna suddenly appeared at my doorstep. I came home from work, and as soon as she saw me, she rushed at me, but I quickly dodged. George, how can you be so heartless? He's my mentor, my future and graduation are in his hands. I was forced into this. I really had no choice. I promise, nothing happened at the hotel. I swear I didn't do anything wrong to you. Anna was crying so hard. Trying to look convincing. She must have thought I didn't know about the chat logs. I raised my hand to stop her acting and said one thing. Leave. It's true that Henry had an improper relationship with his PhD student, and the evidence is conclusive. Henry admitted it himself, using his position to help Anna commit academic fraud and pursue personal gain, which seriously violated the school's regulations. The final result was Henry's dismissal. This caused a huge stir. Although the school tried to suppress it, the video of the original wife causing a scene in the lab, along with those explicit chat logs, still leaked out. Henry's reputation in the academic world, built over many years, completely collapsed. As for Amy, I heard that after her outburst that day, she was determined to divorce Henry. Henry, forced to cooperate with the school's investigation while also dealing with family issues, seemed to age at least 20 years in just 2 weeks. I felt no guilt whatsoever. He deserved every bit of the consequences he faced, betraying his family, interfering in other people's relationships, seducing students, and corrupting academic integrity. As for Anna, she naturally had no face to show up at school anymore. The once envied academic beauty was now the subject of scorn, labeled a slut by everyone. The next time I heard news about Anna was at a friend's dinner party, 6 months later. After a 2-month period of silence, Anna had started dating again. She concealed the fact that she hadn't completed her PhD and only told people she had a master's degree. Her boyfriends were always men over 40, wealthy and well-established in their careers. I overheard someone say, "Rich older men are sharper than you think. They know exactly what young women want." A lot of times, these women pretend to date, sleep with them, and then leave. Who's taking advantage of whom, it's hard to say. I shook my head silently. Anna and the Millers were still the same, dreaming of an easy life without lifting a finger. Let them be. It didn't matter to me anymore.